What's going on, everyone? So here's an interview with Shawn Layden, as we know, the former CEO, chairman of PlayStation and Sony Interactive Entertainment. He's going to weigh in on what he thinks about Microsoft's multi-platform aspect, the route that they're going. He's going to share his, respect and thoughts about Nintendo too, and how they do things the way they're doing, and how they're dominating, how they're going to continue to dominate. And it's going to be a very interesting one. I like Shawn Layden, I thought he was cool. I don't know if you guys remember at one time one of the best moments and gaming broadcasting history when it was him, Reggie. Let's see, we type this in: Shawn Layden, Reggie, Phil at E3. Remember when they all stood together? Right there. Pretty awesome moment. Where E3 was still around. Good times, if you guys remember that. I guess they're not letting me do that. But anyways, we remember this picture, right? I can get up to it real quick. Yeah. Good times, right? Game Awards as well. So, yeah, let's get into this. Let's see what he has to say, and then we're going to comment along the way. I thought he had some interesting comments, and I like Shawn Layden, so I take what he says serious. He's a respectable individual, and he was good at what he did, and he played his character very well.
More things to fight against now than there was, 10 years ago.
And I'd argue people's attention spans are dropping as well.
Yeah, well, if you get all of your stimulation from 17-second TikTok feeds, it does impact you.
Mm.
He's sitting over there looking like a white beard grandpa now.
Cool. Next question is from Flying Plant Whale 545. Interesting name.
Okay.
What is Shawn's opinion on Microsoft's latest business strategy of making their IPs multi-platform? And will it increase or diminish Xbox brand value in the eyes of gamers?
Multi-platform is a strategy. Multi-platform, particularly in a world where the cost of development is increasing dramatically. Multi-platform means widening your addressable market.
Now, we're gonna comment just right on that little section right there, as he said. We do know that one of the main reasons people are doing that now is because of the development costs of high technology video games, hyper details, realism, all that type of stuff. And Sony being in the movie category, making a lot of movie games. Spider-Man's an example, how much they needed to sell, like what, 7 to 8 million to even start making profit. It's how expensive they can get, and them also making a lot of live service games gives people the idea that, man, they're really trying to not only find a Call of Duty replacement, but to make a lot of profit because it's just not sustainable in that route. And then Shawn Layden right off the bat is saying that multi-platform is definitely the way to go at the moment for sure. And he's not disagreeing with it.
The marketing guys say, just getting more people a chance to see it. So I certainly can understand, appreciate, and welcome that ability to have Xbox games appearing on other platforms. What it does do to their brand, I think, it makes the conversation harder to create. What you mentioned earlier is the FOMO. How do you create the FOMO? Trying to do that by bringing everyone to your platform, saying, if you're not here, you're missing out. But if it's available on all platforms, that's one of your marketing tactics you can't use. You can't say it's only available here if it's available everywhere. So it's a balancing act, right? I'm increasing my addressable market. Yay, that's good. I'm making it harder to sell the only on my platform story over here. So we've seen it before. I mean, I was in the business when.
So it's interesting what he's saying. And this has been said a lot before, but the way he weighed in on it is, actually cool. That's where Phil Spencer stated, because he was asked of the same question basically last week on the interview that he had, that what we're going to have to do is we're still going to have exclusives. But first and foremost, we need to innovate big time on hardware so you can see a difference now because consoles are too similar now. You know what I mean? And in order to differentiate between the PlayStation next gen, Microsoft's going to have to really innovate. Like Quick Resume was a really good innovation. You know what I mean? But they're going to need to have more than that. We got cloud right now. We got anywhere. They do innovate a lot. So he's saying that it's going to have probably the most innovative and technical leap. Well, Sarah Bond said that, but Phil Spencer was saying that there's going to be like a huge innovation difference next gen on the Xbox hardware, and if they can do that on top of all the features they have now and still have exclusives, then yeah. So what is one of those ideas that we know about? The Steam hybrid idea of getting Steam on Xbox and playing PlayStation games through there, and having Steam there, having Epic Games on there, and having GOG on there, and also having other innovations that are also be on the system that we just don't know about, right? On top of what we have now. So those are the selling points that we know that will be there, and that has to be something that's important. But I know what Shawn Layden has said too, and obviously I've always known that. Everything anybody would try to tell me, like I don't know that. I told you why I'm over here on the Xbox side. I'm balancing the spectrum, and I'm giving credit where it's due. And I think the PlayStation base is very toxic. So what I do is I balance that Boolean spectrum. And I own all, so can nobody say nothing to me, anyways. And I love Nintendo the most. I've already said that multiple times. But at the end of the day, Microsoft has had a huge turnaround, and I think they're doing very well. And if people don't think they're doing very well outside of the hardware aspect, then they're just being a hater, or they just don't understand the way things work, and they don't use Game Pass. Not saying that everybody has to, but just because you don't use something doesn't mean you can't understand it. But it is better if you get that experience because it gives you just a better talking point.
And when Sega brought their Dreamcast titles to PlayStation 2, and in time, then Sega became a software-only company, and have but a great transformation in that respect. Let's be honest; they're doing great.
Yeah.
So it does have historical precedence.
It's interesting because if I take a
So he's saying that because a lot of people brought up the Sega reference. He said that eventually Sega migrated to being third party, but I don't see Microsoft doing that because they have so much money, they're not going bankrupt. So, and they can't, obviously, the richest company in the world. So they're going to keep on making hardware until they just can't. But I get what he's saying, how that worked in the past. But yeah, if you're seen as third party, then you don't have a console. And that's not going to happen with Microsoft because they can just keep on making them regardless and not worrying about going bankrupt. So that's where I say that statement is just not going to fully fit them 100% in that spectrum.
step back and I try to look at this objectively, I feel like Nintendo is probably the best positioned to navigate going forward because they don't chase realistic graphics. They tend to have quite conservative budgets, and they're very much able to create FOMO and able to keep their costs down compared to everyone else. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, I think in a way Nintendo has created its own lane.
Private Idaho, as you call it.
You've been listening to my other work. Yes, and it's probably bigger than Idaho. It's huge.
Yeah.
Their fans are loyal. They have made so many iconic moments in the world of gaming writ large that everyone respects Nintendo. They're a competitor, but you respect everything they've done to create this industry that now we all enjoy and love. So I think they'll keep on keeping on in the way they do it. They've got the right people around it, the right attitude around it. To your point, during the pandemic, a lot of developers ramped up hiring in order to take advantage of this spike in game revenue. Went up like 20%, year on year.
It's crazy.
And then, of course, once the pandemic was over and people weren't like tied to their living room, those drops. So we've seen a lot of reaction in the game development world of reducing staff, given the reduction of the somewhat decline in the revenues of the marketplace, given the anomaly which was the pandemic. I think the whole thing, Nintendo just kind of rode their plan.
Yeah.
Their plan pre-pandemic, through pandemic, post-pandemic, it was the plan. They didn't think that this was a time to jump up and spend a bunch of money because people were spending more time at home. And in hindsight, they were right. But of course, they've been in this business a long time. They've seen all the peaks and valleys, and they've learned how they ride through this thing, and they were successful, and they will continue to be successful. But as you always said, the most common two console stack up in anyone's living room is a Nintendo machine and a Sony machine.
Definitely.
Because they seem to scratch two different itches.
They do. And it looks like Nintendo are taking a page out of Sony's book by actually using numbers now, since we have Switch 2. So
yeah, it's good for them to do that. So what he said about Nintendo is very true, and so he's giving respect because he knows that the reason why we're even here in this gaming segment right here doing anything is because they've allowed that to be created and had. You remove them, none of this exists. And none of the things you're doing now on any device. And there's some people that are growing up now that they didn't understand that. They didn't know that Mario, Jesus, the video game industry, and made it possible, with NES and everything. And how they sold 60 million NES consoles and like almost 60 million SNES, in the 80s and 90s. And the inflation market was different back then too. And hell, Mario sold like 40 million copies. That was crazy. Coming in like that, you know what I mean? Nobody's seen anything like that ever. And then it became a phenomenon. And they never fell off. Then they brought in Pokemon and all other sorts of stuff. And now people are all in these gaming roads every day, even though some people don't even own a Nintendo console or not on it, but they don't realize because of that, they're able to do what they're doing now and meet whoever they're meeting and whatever, you know what I mean? So that's where you just got to give respect to the OG grandmasters, you know what I mean? To the godfather of the industry. And then see that it's not just that, but it's how they never fell off and they continued to create and innovate all the way to here and now. And Microsoft's going to be working close with them, as we've seen they've done that before. And it's just good to see them still being, at the top. And they're about to come back and be at the top again. And like, you want that in a way because it makes gaming better. All three are going to be good no matter what, you know what I mean, in a certain spectrum. But I like when leaders like that show respect the right way. Phil's done it too, in a way. And, that's an important thing because it says a lot about somebody's character. And then it means that they understand the way that the gaming industry works and how it was able to work and be in the position it is now, and how other IPs that people love are born out of the Nintendo world. It's very important. But yeah, this interview, I really wanted to share this with you guys. You probably didn't know about it. As I said, I want to bring you guys as much creative stuff as possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be a huge console war video, but it's still a good one about all spectrums on different consoles, right? We're going to continue a little bit more in this and see what else they have to say. But I definitely am enjoying this. I have to go back and watch some more of it.
They've obviously learned. They're like, oh, maybe we should follow what Sony set here in terms of a precedent. So
yeah, because they've created so much brand value in the word Switch. Why would you mess with that?
Yeah,
it
makes perfect sense. Okay, final question before I let you go.
Okay.
So, what game genres? Oh, this is from Official Mod Zero, by the way. What game genres did you think were going to be big hitters, but ended up turning out to be the opposite? How were the post-mortems for those types of initiatives conducted, and how often heavily did those lessons factor into future decision making? This is a doozy.
Yeah, that's a whole Harvard Business Review article right there.
It is Official Mod Zero.
Yeah, Official Mod Zero. I'll give you a piece of the answer. You can do the rest of the research on your own. We believe that at the time that when I was in London, we had a couple of hardware innovations. Actually, more than that. There's some we didn't go forward with. But SingStar and using USB microphones to have that karaoke experience.
Yeah.
On the one hand, and the iToy camera. This is before Kinect on the Xbox and all of that. We had a camera. We had iToy games. We had iToy boxing and iToy sports games. And later on, we had iPet, where you had like this virtual pet on your TV that could be in your living room because we used the camera to shoot that whole thing.
Yeah.
Really kind of thought that the camera thing was going to be was going to be a real super game changer. And it was successful for a bit. And then folks just kind of got tired of it. And I think people felt a bit they felt a bit uncomfortable having this camera in their living room, looking at them while they're playing games.
That did become a thing.
And not everyone wants to see their face on a TV screen, you know. And so while it had an initial jump on the novelty,
not everybody has these right over here.
Of the experience, it didn't really have enough juice to carry it through successfully over time. People were trying to wrap that into different games, but it wasn't really that successful. SingStar, beyond the SingStar line, the microphones really didn't have a lot of usage, but that was during the days we did SingStar with microphones. Then you had, Guitar Hero with the USB guitar, and you had Rock Band with USB guitars and drums and basses.
Beat them all on Expert.
All super successful for a hot minute, and then the market went away from it. It was a novelty. It was something we hadn't done before, but it wasn't something that people just wanted to continue to do, for the rest of their gaming career. So the postmortem is, yes, new things are good, but also understand that new things may grab a novelty moment. It doesn't mean they're going to grab a long legacy moment. And to understand when to turn off the faucet.
Yeah.
Basically. It's like the bloom is coming off the rose. So instead of let's do 4 more games to try to keep that market elevated, let's just look at it and say, this is the natural decay curve on impressive novelties, which grab a lot of attention. It's like Wii Fit. Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
That kind of blew the Wii market up by millions of units that people bought. People who were not gamers bought into Wii and Wii Fit because, of course, at Christmas time you thought you could lose some weight after all the feasting. But the market went off that as well, just like rowing machines and the treadmill. Over time, people stopped using it. So understanding what are unique opportunities in the moment to capture or create a market that may explode, but then try to understand quickly, is this a novelty or is this extendable? Are we just enjoying a moment in the sun, or have we changed and created an entire new genre? And as ever, whether it's in games, music, or movies, it's difficult to know when the right time to get off the horse is.
Well, I'm of the view, and you probably agree, that you learn more from your failures than your successes, because it kind of forces you to take a step back and you have to humble yourself, and hubris fully goes out the door.
What Shawn Layden said is actually very true. Is you can make a lot of mistakes with that, and that's not easy to do.
I think success teaches us very little, particularly in entertainment. I mean, success in building a rocket ship is probably repeatable, and you understand this is the kind of fuel you need, and this is the aerodynamics of the rocket. But in gaming, you could have a super hit, it goes to the roof, but you can't repeat the phenomenon. I mean, we'd have that phrase in music, right? One-hit wonders.
Yep.
If this band came out of nowhere, Haircut 100, Love Plus One, top 10, and then never heard from again. So gaming has the same dynamics around that, and how do we understand that this success was made successful because of these factors? Success is really hard to nail what you actually got right and repeat it. Failure is easy to understand where you got wrong and to avoid it. Mm. So you're right. You learn more from your failures than from your successes, definitely.
Well, that is a good place to wrap up. Shawn?
Yeah, that was good. So what Shawn Layden said is actually very true. You know what I mean? And that's where people are learning right now in the gaming industry. You can see it on the Xbox category, what Nintendo learned with the Wii U, what Sony learned with the PSN Act, what they're learning right now with the live service. What do we need to never do again? You know what I mean? How do we turn around and get to where we are now? Because we've had those hardships. So that's some important stuff right there. Now, I could bring you guys another segment of this, but this is kind of what I wanted to highlight. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Peace out, y'all.